Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Globally Connected podcast. We are very excited to have you guys here, and today we're going to talk about lessons that we have learned in our 20s. So, this is actually quite interesting because I have done 10 lessons and Jerome has done 10 lessons, and we haven't even shared them with each other yet. So, this is like live of us going through the lessons that we've learned as we're in our 20s. And yeah, Jerome, you got anything to add in?
Yeah, I'm interested to know the 10 things that you have learned in your 20s. But I'm more so interested just also to know what those, the viewers have learned in their 20s. And I want to know their perspective. And, don't forget to like and subscribe and just comment your thoughts. We also are almost on our way to 50 subscribers. So don't forget that, for the 50th subscriber, we're doing something special for you. So just sit back and enjoy another great episode.
Yay, awesome. All right, Jerome. So I will let you go ahead and start first with a life lesson that you have learned in your 20s. And guys, by the way, Jerome's birthday is coming up in a couple months. So he is leaving his 20 eras into a new era. So this is very exciting. And I'm really excited to hear the lessons that he's learned as he's gone through his full 20s.
Yeah, I'm getting more seasoned, guys. I'm getting more seasoned. But yeah, I would say in no particular order. But the first lesson that I learned in my 20 was, and I'm still getting better with it, but how to save money. That's a lesson that I learned because, you told that at a young age, but you don't really actually apply that lesson because you want to, when you first get money or start accumulating your own money, you want to see what it's like to be able to buy and get things for yourself. And it's kind of like a rush where it's like, okay, I want to keep doing it and doing it because like I could kind of support myself on my own in a bit. But that's a lesson that I learned, and it actually really started to hit home probably like in my mid 26, in my mid 20s when I was like 26, 27, because that's when it's like, okay, you start experiencing, you know, life lessons where it's like, okay, you kind of running low on money, and it's like, okay, this is where saving your money, that play practice actually comes into play, but you actually start applying it then. So that's a lesson, how to save money. How about you? What's a lesson that you learned in your 20s? If you don't have anything to share based on what I just shared about my lesson.
Hmm. Yeah, I think saving money is a very important lesson, as we enter our 20s and, go through life in general. So, my lesson, also in no particular order, it will be start anything today and you will gradually get better every day. So you don't have to be perfect or you don't have to be 100% ready to start something or feel like you've got everything down packed to get started. But start today. Like start something without this like fear that it's not good enough or not perfect enough because progress comes from these consistent efforts, setting habits, setting your focus on something. So if you want to start a business, if you want to start a routine, the first step of action is going to be to start today.
Yeah,
So I would just say, like, don't always hold things off for the future, but actually take the efforts that you can daily.
that's a good one. That's a very good one. Actually, I like that, and I think that's very true. It kind of aligns with you get out what you put in, but also
Mm,
really being consistent. I think that's probably one of the top ways to like generate success, however you may define that as. But I like that one. So good
mm,
one. All right. The next one for me is that traveling is really one of the best ways to learn about yourself and the perspective of how you view the world and if you are an adaptable person or not.
mm,
So, to expound upon that, you've been traveling long before me. I'm pretty certain of that. But I didn't travel internationally until I was the age of 22, and I actually started in 2018. Um, and I just remember getting on the, and that was actually my first time getting on the plane. It was at Georgia State, and I just remember the excitement that I had towards that. But just actually entering my first country I entered outside of America was Amsterdam. And I just remember we was over there for like a couple hours or whatever the case may be. So I just remember seeing how different the tech was, like the McDonald's. This was in 2018. They already had like just system set up where you could order the McDonald's, but don't actually physically have to go to a cash register and talk to somebody. So it's already set up like more tech advanced than what I had saw in the States. And then also just the varieties and like different things that you could order at McDonald's was cool. But then when I got into Dubai, just seeing how life is different, how people operate, move, and think differently on a day-to-day basis, different foods, different things to do and like activities to immerse yourself in on a day-to-day basis. I had never seen that. And that taught me right there, okay, I actually could thrive in these environments. And these are the environments that I actually love to be in and have people who come from different walks of life be a part of with me as I be in this environment. And that's when I just found the most joy and peace about myself. And that's when I learned more about myself, that I'm adventurous. And I learned so much, and just connecting with the different people who weren't from Dubai, but who had actually had their identity stolen and had to be brought to Dubai. That was like, okay, this actually happens not only in America, but outside of America. So I say all that to say that was when I started to learn more about myself, and that I'm really a kid just on a in a world that's just I'm really just a kid in a world who's open to being adventurous and just using it as my oyster shell and just having fun, etc. So yeah, that's something I learned, man.
Yeah. Facts, man. That leads into my next lesson. It's quite similar in a way, around the theme of travel, learning more about yourself. So a lesson that I've learned is that like there is so much life to live and there's so much life happening all around us at once. So
Yeah,
sometimes it may seem like there's nothing going on, or it may seem that things are boring or that you're stagnant or stationary, but then, you just kind of have to redirect your perspective and
mhm,
realize, one, there's so many things to be grateful for. Like, we have so many opportunities and blessings. There's a lot of things to be grateful for. We have legs that we can walk with. Like, there's just so many things, being able to breathe, being able to go outside. So sometimes, you gotta, like, when you feel down about life, of course this is natural, like life comes in a roller coaster of emotions, and that's okay. But sometimes, you got to remind yourself, like, hey, there's a lot of life actually out there. Like, this situation that I'm in, or this obstacle that I'm facing through, or this reality that I feel confined in, there's actually so many other things out there. Like, I could go outside right now and go to a mall, go interact with people, go do something. I could take a flight, go somewhere. There's so
yeah,
much going on in this life, and don't feel like constricted in one space or thought of mind.
yeah. That's a great one. Being grateful. That's something a
Mhm,
lot of people take for granted. So that's a very good one. So guys, don't take anything for granted.
mhm.
The next lesson that I've learned in my 20s, how to take care of your mental health. So I come from a background where that wasn't something that was like glamorous or people was advocate of. It was all I was always told to keep my emotions in check, never cry, sweet to cry, etc. So I started off on the wrong foot. But I always wanted to like actually get into therapy, and just not because anything was wrong. I just think it's always good to talk to somebody and express yourself with somebody who don't even know you, because a lot of the trauma that we have is generational. It occurs within us before we even get here. It's just subconscious, and we gotta release it. But I learned that being vulnerable is a skill, and it's actually a cool thing to be. And expressing yourself is healthy. It's not good to keep things inside, etc. So yeah, that's the lesson that I learned, is basically how to take care of your mental health.
That is a very important lesson. And, I love that you highlight vulnerability and, the importance of speaking out how you feel. It's okay to feel emotions. It's okay to have things that are bothering you and to speak out on them, and then also for our internal, like, to self-reflect on our own mental well-being and what we can do
Mhm.
to love ourselves. That's very, very important.
Right.
um So the next lesson that I have is opportunities can come to you when you align yourself in a place to receive them. So
Mm,
oftentimes, I've been in situations where I'm like seeking out an opportunity, but I haven't aligned my energy to receive it. Maybe I'm having a lot of self doubt. Maybe I'm speaking negatively about myself or something. And so I think, like, throughout the years, I've really come to understand that when you put yourself in a space where these opportunities can come to you and can find you, when you're working on yourself to be your best self, speaking positively on yourself, going to the places where these opportunities can find you, doing the outreach to these people, etc., then these opportunities can come to you, but they can't really come to you if you're not positioning yourself in a place for them to come. So I'd
mm.
say that's a lesson I've learned in my 20s.
That's a great one, which leads me into a lesson that I learned in my 20s is how to be cognizant of vibrations, frequencies, and energies in order to protect your energy to identify
Mm.
what you will allow into your world and what you won't allow. Um,
Mm. Yes.
yeah, so what I mean by that is basically your environment, who you're around, and who you talk to, etc. That means everything. It's kind of like that saying you are what you attract. But even if you don't attract that, you can't allow bad energy and negative energy to like get into you. Like for example, I peep when things or I'm aware of things when I'm in the wrong environment. Like for example, I was working at a place. I used to have to pray before I went into the job every day. And it's like it shouldn't be
Wow.
like this. It was just an environment where everything was low. The people was low vibrational, etc. And it just resulted in my work performance being low, not good. And I'm not perfect when it comes to working, but at the same time, and you know this from example, I give my best. I like to perform and go above and beyond. So I used to hate going to work every day, and I was just basically I used to take breaks longer than I needed to. But yeah, that's what I mean by that. It's just vibrations, frequencies, and energies is everything, and you got to be cognizant of who you surround yourself around, whether that's work, personally, professionally, etc., because it really can affect you. So that's my thoughts on.
Mhm. Yes. That'll bring me into my next lesson. I just moved it up on the 10 instead of being, it was closer to the bottom, but I moved it up because it flows with what you've said.
Yeah,
But trust yourself. Your intuition is rarely wrong. And the more you trust yourself, the better your discernment becomes.
powerful,
Yeah,
powerful.
and that goes in line with what Jerome says. Like sometimes you can feel the energy is off, you can feel the frequency is off, and sometimes your gut will tell you something before you even know it. And your gut is powerful. Like it's telling you something, and the more that you trust your gut and the more that you kind of line in with your intuition, the better you can discern things in the future and know things too. So I'm working on that currently, like just
Mm,
getting better at trusting my gut and not being like in opposition to it or doing like the benefit of the doubt thing all the time, because I'm a huge person who does like benefit of the doubt. But then I recently thought, I was like, what benefit is there in doubting? Like, what actually is the
mm.
benefit of doubting something? Like, why am I tricking myself like that? Like, that's my gut telling me something. So yeah, that's the life lesson I got there for you guys.
Why do you? I have a question. Why do you think you do that? Like you basically playing devil's advocate to your gut. Why do you think you do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. I think sometimes I just try to see the good in a lot of things. And I'm like, no, I like question myself first before questioning the person and
Mm,
or the action or what's going on. Like I'll question myself and my discernment first and be like, maybe I'm overthinking it, or maybe like I'm being overly sensitive or overly emotional about something. So I think it's just trying to see the good primarily, but that's not a good thing. I think that's just like being blindsided a little bit, but I'm working on it. Yeah.
okay. All right. My next lesson that I learned in my 20s is how to take care of your body. And for elaboration, the proper nutrients and drinks to consume. So when I entered my 20s, I ate beef, I ate everything. But now I'm vegetarian. So obviously, I probably when I was the age of 22, actually, before I moved from my hometown, my intuition came into play and it just said, you should stop eating meat. And I was like, wait, what? And I don't know, but once that thought hit my mind, I just started to think about long term how I wanted to be, how I wanted to feel, etc. Because in the country of the U.S., a lot of times, a lot of like health problems that people experience is from what they put inside their body, etc., which leads them to start taking medications, etc. Right? Not to get too political, but long story short, once I learned that, that's when I cut out beef and pork. So I haven't had beef or pork since 2017 August, and from then I just consumed chicken and fish. Um, and I started to notice a difference. But then, literally before the pandemic, not even knowing the world was going to shut down, I mentally stopped eating chicken. I just mentally got tired of it. It didn't taste the same. And I just found out what they was putting inside of the chicken. So I cut that out. Then I became pescatarian. So I was pescatarian from 2020 up until last year, September-ish, 2024. And then I just went cold turkey and I just been vegetarian ever since. But I say all that to say, I wanted to take care of my body because you feel more, you have a clear mind, you feel free, you have a lot of energy. And I just want to be able to be here for generations after me, whether that's my kids, grandkids, etc. And I just wanted to be vibrant, jolly, and just, look young. So that's a lesson that I learned, man, in my 20s was how to take care of my body and just be cognizant of what I put into it because it's like a car, man. Um, it only goes as far and runs as smooth and efficient as you allow it to. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So next lesson for me, um, it is that not everyone needs to know everything about you. So protect your energy and be careful who earns your trust. And I had to learn this because, sometimes, you feel like you can be open and share things about what's going on in your personal life. And then in the end, like that gets, you know, it's just not good to overshare like everything that you have going on. And I think for me, I learned this lesson because I started to realize like actually a lot of people don't really talk about what's going on in their life. Even
Mm.
if you interact with them, you're able to engage and like talk about things with them, but then you understand that it's a bit on a superficial level. Like not everybody gets so deep with you and actually tells you what's on their heart, what's in their heart. And I think like now as I'm getting older, I'm realizing because I can sometimes just believe that people have like a good intention or a trusting or are understanding or something, but maybe they're taking the information that you give them to like learn more about you, but not necessarily even tell things about themselves. So, all in all, of course, there's people that you can trust with things and that you can share the deep things in your heart. Um, but I think not everybody needs to know everything about you, and be careful with the things that you share. I think like now I kind of think twice before I say things, whereas before, I could say I've been a bit like just more open and trusting with people and thinking that their intentions are good or something like that. But it's a crazy world out here. So, not everybody has the same heart as you or the same intentions, and just be careful.
That's a great one. Great insight. Which leads into my next lesson, which kind of coincides a bit with what you just said. So my lesson is that some people come into your life for seasons, whether that is to stay, teach you a lesson, or hurt you to teach you a lesson. Uh, yeah, that's a lesson of mine. I laugh because that's not something you were taught. And I don't know why we aren't, at least I wasn't taught that, but I laugh because that a lot of times you experience that in relationships and also you experience that in college. Like, for example, a lot of my friends I started off talking to in college, we don't have, it's nothing happened or whatever the case may be, but our relationships and bonds is not as tight as, for example, the relationship that I developed with you, for example, right? So that's a prime example, man. And I really think I think that's a good thing, to be honest. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of times we could look at that as a bad thing. But again, I think a lot of time, based on where we are as human beings at a point in our life, I think those people that come into our life comes for that moment of who we are as an individual. And once we grow and adapt to just learning more about ourselves, getting more exposure, I think that's when the people who are on that same frequency, we would naturally attract them and they would stay there. Um, I'm curious to know your thoughts about that, though.
Well, that was my next lesson too. It was not
Really?
everyone will stay. Yes, it was not everyone will stay in our life. All friendships, people aren't meant to go through all the trials and tribulations of life. So people can come in seasonally, appreciate people for the role that they play in that part, because some people are meant to be in your life at a certain season. Like maybe they needed something at that time, you needed something at that time, like you needed the love that they gave you, they needed like a lesson, something. So everyone comes into our life for a reason and a season, and don't regret that. Like if things drift away, don't regret being in that person's life at that time, because there was a reason for that. It was intended. Like I truly believe everything is written. Maktub is the phrase in Arabic. Like there is a reason that you were meant to cross paths with that person. And like sometimes people just go through their own path and go through their next chapter in life, and not everyone's meant to go with each other in every chapter. And there is beauty in that. And
Yeah.
then I think it's also made me realize that the importance of family, because I've realized family really sticks with you through all your trials and tribulations, the hard moments. Sometimes you have ups and downs, but your family, of course, this varies from person to person. Um, for me personally, I truly believe family is everything and is really important. And as I grow older, I realize that more and more. You always realize, like, yes, family is important, but I think as I'm getting older in my 20s, I'm just realizing how the loyalty that comes with family is so treasured and beautiful.
That leads to my next lesson. Guys, you see how the alignment is in chemistry is really showing between me and her? But that leads to my next lesson, which is you develop a family outside of your actual blood. And those are the people who become really close to you. That's my lesson, man, because me and a lot of some of my family members, we were very tight coming up, very tight, very close. I see them every day, but a lot of them is not like that the same. And there's some family members who I wasn't close with, but I wanted to develop a close bond. I'm close with them now than I was in the past. Um, but I still like to say, like, for example, her, Abdul, and some other people, they're really like family, man. Like you develop family outside of your own blood, and it's sad. It shouldn't be like that, but that's reality, man.
Yeah, you can develop like a soul family too throughout life. People that got your back, and you got their back. Through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So next lesson I got is, and this lines up a little bit with the lesson that Jerome said, I think a couple lessons ago, but health is wealth. You cannot do anything if you're not in your optimal health and taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you can run yourself thin, trying to be there for other people and everything. But if you're not taking care of yourself primarily, you really cannot do a lot out there in the world. Like, and no, the one thing is, nobody else can do your health for you. Nobody else can um push you to focus on your health as much as you can for yourself. So building a routine, and I'm still working on that. So I think I'm going through phases of figuring out how to take care of my health and make sure that it's the its optimal thing. Like, when it comes to my mental health, emotional health, food as well. the things that we consume, my spirituality too, my connection with God as well. And then I think like the next thing that I really need to work on is my fitness, like fitness too, moving your body, getting active. Like that's a very important part of health as well. So health is wealth. It's actually, I think, way more important than having hella money, because what are you going to do with a lot of money if you're not healthy? So health is wealth.
Health as well. Yeah, I've been big on that my entire life. My next lesson, and guys, we are almost finished. We got two more, well, one now with this next round. How to invest your money. I wasn't taught how to invest. That was self-taught. But I knew, again, in my early 20s, I heard about stocks. I wanted to get into stocks. I heard about a Roth IRA, not a 401k. I heard about a Roth IRA, and I wanted to start that. So I got into stocks when I was like 24, actually, during the pandemic. Um, but that's a lesson that I learned because, again, saving money can only take you so far. But I think you need to learn how to save before you can invest. But it's a lesson that I learned because, again, passive income is really a thing where you really have to let your money work for you and your assets work for you. And that right there is going to be something that you could leave behind to generations after you. So, and I think it's a beautiful feeling to not always have to work for money. So that's the lesson that I learned is how to invest your money.
Building passive streams of income, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next lesson I've got is the importance of learning and not just learning, but implementing saying no. So it is not selfish to care about yourself. It is not selfish to set boundaries. You should start advocating for yourself. And if you are constantly putting others' needs before your own, you're teaching other people that their needs are more important than yours.
Wow.
So it is very important to learn to say no, to advocate for yourself, and it is not selfish to put yourself first. If you are a person who, like me, you've constantly feel like you have to like be kind to others or do this, or you feel bad if you like are saying no to someone for something, or you feel bad for this, no, that you should not feel bad. It is not wrong. And I'm ingraining this. It's like I'm ingraining it to myself too, because I've literally been ingraining this in myself and trying to like fully learn this lesson. I think I'm getting there for real. It's not selfish to like do that. And actually, if you are teaching other people that their needs are more important than yours, then they're not going to respect your needs. So advocating for yourself is very important. It is not selfish, and your worth is not tied to what you're doing for everybody else. Okay? Your worth is, you define your worth. Like, love yourself and set boundaries for yourself.
Yeah. I want to add on to that, man. You know how many times I've been called selfish? Because I have a good heart, which is funny why when people say that, I'm like, what? But people only say that because it's like you said yes to them for so long that when you finally set that boundary and says no, it's like a slap in the face. But it's like, no, I'm not slapping you in the face, literally. I'm just only basically protecting myself so you won't continue to take advantage of me. So that's how I look at me saying no. That's a powerful one, man, because I think that also could be a thing that'll drag you down. So that's a big one. And then my last lesson, before we get into a bonus one, I want to throw that in and surprise you. But my last one is the journey can be lonely. And what I mean by that is if you are a person who's audacious and you have big goals and dreams to accomplish, not everyone is going to understand your vision, not understand who you are and what you are aspiring to do. So for elaboration, I've always been different. I always wanted to do big things coming from a small town. But not everybody, probably about 90% of the people who actually know me don't understand that. And that has led me to a lot of times be by myself, which I'm cool with being with. but you need that community. You know what I'm saying? You need that support system to rise to the top with you. But I could say that circle is very, very small. And that's all right. That's cool. But that's just something I think we all should be aware of is if you're trying to really do something with your life, that journey is going to be lonely and not everybody's going to understand. So just be cool with being cool with that and just continue to do what your thing. Continue to do your thing. And that's why that is a correlation with taking care of your mental health and physical health because again, it's a lonely journey. So that's my lesson.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that's an important one. I'm thinking I had two more, and I'll move it up because it follows up on what you just said. So it is that being alone is a blessing.
Yeah.
It helps you confront yourself and see truths about yourself. So
Mm,
being alone can be scary. You got to dig deep. You got to do that self work, that self reflection. It can be painful. It can hurt, but it helps you confront those truths about yourself. They say ignorance is bliss, knowledge is power. So, actually looking within and figuring these things out, it's tough, but it's gonna help you in the long run, and it's a necessary journey rather than just putting things off and distracting yourself with people or with things, etc. Look deep within yourself and see the see the blessing in being alone.
yeah, that's beautiful, man. And then my bonus lesson that I learned in my 20, everyone's journey in life is different. Some people take off quickly. Some people journey is really a marathon. Like I could use mine for example. I really wish I could have been. I'm successful in my own mind, because that's how I really feel. But as far as like enjoying the fruits of my labor, that still is to come. But I really didn't. I kind of knew this, but I didn't. My journey's been a marathon. Long story short, I had a lot of learning lessons, and blood, sweat, and tears have been put into this journey of building an empire. And I've known people, and still known to this day, who took off like that. By the time they were 25, etc. And me, it's taking me some time, but I got to realize that I don't come from a family of an affluent background, and I'm just doing mine differently. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've learned in my 20s, to be honest, is that everybody's journey is different, and that's okay. Don't compare yourself because comparison is the thief of joy. But that's the biggest lesson that I got in my 20s is that everybody's journey is different. All you could do is continue to put in the work, take it one day at a time, be patient, yet take action, and you'll get to wherever you aspire to achieve.
Yeah, beautiful, very true. All right, and my last one will be that um, people can always change. You can always change. There's a quote that is very popular is that people don't change. I don't necessarily believe that people don't change. I think, if you don't want to change and you want to stay stuck in your ways, yeah, like of course someone can stay the same and never change and never grow. But I think people can always change. They can reinvent themselves, they can evolve. Like I think growth is real, you can shift your mindset, you can find the right motivation to make the right changes in your life, you can remove old habits, you can better yourself. So I think people can change, and you know you are constantly evolving and growing, and it's about the choices and the actions that you make.
Yeah. Hmm. Any lasting thoughts, comments, or lessons before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys' perspectives, some lessons that you've learned in your 20s, in your teens, in your 30s, in your 40s, 50s, whatever. Any lessons that you've learned too throughout life, that you want to share with others. And we're all here in this life together, and we're here to learn from each other, grow, and we hope that this has motivated you a bit. And we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah. This has been another great episode. I really enjoyed it. This being my last year in my 20s. And I really enjoyed it because I found myself, I'm still very young, guys. Also, that's another thing. I think in our 20s, we're not old, guys. We're just really learning and really maturing into who we are supposed to be as far as like execution. within our lives going forward. But I really enjoyed this episode because I got time to reflect a bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Please be sure to comment, like, share with others, and also subscribe. And continue to enjoy this journey with us. And we'll see you next week for our next episode.
Take care, guys.